iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max after 3 weeks. Coming up right now. Let's go. Fall 2018 Nick Ackerman merchandise now available, ranging from long sleeve tees all the way to hoodies and iPhone and Galaxy cases. Check it out, link down below in the description. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone XS and iPhone XS Max. Somebody call them the tennis rackets, because of the way it sounds. Some call it the XS, like as in as excess. Whatever, call it whatever you want. Maximus Prime over here. I've had these things for about 3 weeks since launch day, and I want to explain to you, ooh, that exposure, sorry about that. I want to explain to you how they've been to use like in the real world. So what has it been like to actually just have these both, and maybe this can help you decide, should I get the iPhone XS or should I get the iPhone XS Max? Because, while they are a little bit different in size, they're pretty similar devices. So beginning with the iPhone XS, I want to talk about the design. It feels like an iPhone X. So if you don't need the upgraded cameras, save yourself the money. Go get yourself a secondhand iPhone X. Trust me on this one. The only real upgrade here and that is really felt is the cameras. You can give me all that 15%, 50% GPU increase. In the real world, most people are not going to notice this. And I'm pretty sure if a person can buy a phone like this, they can likely buy a laptop to do actual editing on, to do video editing and stuff like that. However, if you absolutely need the power, you might still like the design here on the iPhone XS. The design over here is basically identical to the iPhone XS and the iPhone X, and after 3 weeks, I can tell you, after the newness has worn off, this one still feels like the more dense, the more solid, the more premium device in the iPhone XS Max. So if you're looking for a phone that definitely feels like you got over $1,000 in your hand, that's the XS Max. Get this one. It definitely has that more premium, solid feel. And that's not because the materials, they both have the solid same stainless steel, but there's more weight on the iPhone XS Max. I want to discuss the handling experience. Now, both of these, if you are not used to a larger display, is going to feel like a stretch to get to the top. The notification center is up here. Not sure why they didn't implement it somewhere at the bottom, but it's up here now. So if you have smaller hands, the reach, even on the smaller XS, will be a little bit harder than some of your prior phones. Now, swiping through is no big deal. It's pretty narrow side to side, but reaching those top applications in the corner could be a stretch. So you will be doing this a lot using reachability, and that's only amplified over here for the iPhone XS Max. Now, on this device right here, if you swipe down, basically you have to do this a lot more because, oh man, look at the reach up there. Woo, that's way up there on the iPhone XS Max. So this guy is a tall device. You've seen some of those memes and pictures of really long phones back in the day. It's coming true here with the XS Max. And it would be nice to have like a fingerprint here so we can swipe down, maybe pull down them notifications like this guy right here, for example. But that doesn't exist on this device, probably won't. So the iPhone XS Max in handling, just a very big device, wide and heavy. Okay, so I want to talk about the displays between both of them. They both have these gorgeous AMOLED displays on here, and they get very bright, over 700 nits or something like that at their max. Now, they're tuned to be very accurate, so they look very similar in terms of colors to prior iPhones, but you cannot get over that this is still a Samsung manufactured panel, and it does look great. So one thing I do want to mention is that if you're reading and stuff like that, like doing articles, reading articles here on the iPhone XS Max, for example, this one from Mashable, this guy is just going to be a much better reading experience because there's just less scrolling to do here. Now, where the iPhone XS display shines is when you're using one-handed things like doing social media, hopping in between applications. That's when I really enjoy the iPhone XS display. Just scrolling through one hand, hopping into your messages, doing some reading, stuff like that. It's pretty fun to use the iPhone XS. Where the XS Max shines again, though, is in video. If you're watching video, just look at this canvas. It's absolutely massive here on the iPhone XS Max. And after 3 weeks, when it comes to video, I'm going to the XS Max every single time. Now, that's not to say that video watching can't be enjoyable here for the iPhone XS. It can, but with this display, it's just smaller and not as large. So if you're a media goer, get the iPhone XS Max. I think if you're a more mobile user, like you're on the go constantly, I think the XS will suit you a little bit better. It's just, even for people with big hands, it's still pretty comfortable. Like I got big hands and this phone is still very comfortable to use. Now, one last area where the display wins for the XS Max is going to be In browsing, Safari shows a little bit more content on display. It's not super noticeable, but definitely shows a little bit more content than what you would see on the smaller iPhone XS. Okay, so both my iPhone XS and XS Max are updated to iOS 12.1, and after 3 weeks, I gotta tell you, the software has been fantastic for the iPhone XS and XS Max. Very fluid, very fast, just about perfect, which actually makes the phone a little bit boring because there's nothing really to talk about because it just works. Now, I know there's been a lot of gates about charge gate. I actually never had the charge problem on my iPhone when it comes to like plugging it in and wouldn't charge. Every charger I tried worked. Also, that Wi-Fi issue, I didn't really experience that much either with the software, but I know some people were, so that has been fixed here in this latest version. Now, there's another bug that came out that people are saying that their messages on iOS 12, this goes for pretty much all iPhones, are being sent to people randomly, and it has a thing to do with the Apple ID, I've heard. So I don't know who's having that issue. I haven't had it yet, but that can be very awkward if you're sending out messages to people you don't want to, like an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, for example. What really shocks me after 3 weeks is that there's really nothing that takes advantage of the XS Max's size. It's literally just a jumbo XS. Like, there's no landscape mode on here. I know Face ID doesn't work in landscape mode. I get that fact, but still. Now, you do have the ability to put this guy in zoom. That's one different feature here, but it's not like a huge zoom, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. You can zoom those icons, but so there it goes. You can see they are bigger, but they're not like massive like they were on the iPhone 6, for example. So there you go. You can do that. Can't do that on the iPhone XS software. I should discuss also how some applications, actually a lot of applications, are not optimized properly for the Max model. So Video Shop, for example, if I go to make a new video, you see right there how that text is cut off. A lot of developers' apps are just not ready for this display. You know, they just weren't ready to make apps yet for this one. But over here for the XS, if you use a similar application, because the 10 has been out for so long, many developers have already got on board and fixed this problem for last year's phone. So you can see start new video right there. So you see right there, optimization issues are everywhere for the XS Max, especially in third-party applications. So keep that in mind. Now, I do want to touch on the landscape applications because the iPhone XS Max does have landscape apps, just not on the home screen. Software as a whole, though, has been reliable, fast, and what you expect from iOS. It's more of the same. Don't expect it to be much different besides the fact that it's a gesture system. And if you had an iPhone 10, you already know what that was here for these devices. That's about all that would be different if you're coming from a home button iPhone. Now, since we were talking about software, let me talk about performance. And this right here doesn't really say anything about performance, but you've seen my performance test already. And the iPhone XS and XS Max have been basically blowing away the competition in performance as is expected. These phones are beasts in performance. A12 Bionic chipset, even with 4 gigs of RAM, they're blowing away the competition. Now, where the competition is still winning, though, is probably an ability to hold more applications in the background. Like the Note 9 has 8 gigabytes of RAM. It can hold more apps without reloading because these have 4 gigs of RAM about this. So my take on the performance is do not come to these phones just to see a massive leap in performance unless you're coming from an iPhone 6S and below. If you're coming from those, you will see a leap in performance. But if you're coming from anything from a 7, 7 Plus, 8, 8 Plus, or an iPhone 10, don't come to these for performance. You're not going to be happy with paying $1,000 to realize the performance is not that much different in your everyday real world experience. That's how I felt after 3 weeks. One thing I should mention about the performance, though, is that 120 hertz touch sample rate is super quick. There's only one phone that's smoother feeling than this, and that is the Razer Phone 2 with the 120 hertz refresh rate as well. It has both of them. So this is probably the second most smooth feeling phone on the planet next to the Razer Phone. So let's discuss battery life. iPhone XS and XS Max after 3 weeks. I've been pretty impressed with both of these on the battery. I've used them both separately on separate days so you see how they would last, and they both get me through a day. Now the thing is the iPhone XS would finish with like 47. This one would finish with like 63. So this guy is definitely significantly better than the XS in terms of battery life, like an hour, hour and a half. And that could be a reason to justify buying the XS Max over the iPhone XS. Let me not forget the audio experience on this device. Now, the iPhone XS and XS Max have some great speakers. They're very full and they're very loud. So let's go ahead and play one. Potential upgraders from the 2016 iPhone SE to the iPhone XS. Now, cross-shopping these phones. Now, you can cover it up. and you can still hear it very full and clear. So with the audio, there's only one phone that could probably take these down, and that is the Razer Phone 2. Now, if you want headphone jack, you don't get that here. I mean, it's been expected. You haven't had it since the iPhone 7, but still very good external audio. I'm very pleased with that. If you're watching videos with somebody side by side, you're going to love how loud the speakers on these phones do get. So after 3 weeks, let me talk about the camera experience. And I got to tell you that the camera, at first, I'm like, this is going to be another iPhone camera, just like the rest of them, barely giving me any update. And I was totally wrong, because this year with the new Smart HDR, the photos on the XS and XS Max are just absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm not going to go over this and talk about them. Here, you got portrait mode, you got square, you got pano. We know the iPhone software by now. They shoot 4K 60p. They have the new Smart HDR mode, which isn't able to be toggled on and off. But the big thing here is that it just combines those exposures and picks out like one of the best photos. So you can see right here, some people are saying it's too beautified, that makes the skin tones look too soft, things like that. But video looks absolutely great. And here I shot my entire iPhone XS Max review on these cameras, but take a look at these samples and judge for yourself how much of an improvement these cameras are. Let's go. So lastly, let me get on to call quality. Some people have been saying I have some connection issues with this device. I haven't had those. Pretty good. You know, I got T-Mobile here in Chicago, pretty good service here. These devices just worked for me. Like, I had no issues with the call quality. People sounded clear on both ends, and speakerphones are ridiculously loud. So I really don't have much to complain about when it comes to their call quality. So after 3 weeks, my honest experience with these iPhones have been nothing short but pretty amazing. The most impressive thing to me has been the cameras. The video, wow. It is just incredible what these phones can do, especially that portrait depth effect after the fact. It's just amazing. So if you want incredible camera upgrade from your iPhone, I think any iPhone before it doesn't even come close to these, except for the iPhone X, 8 Plus. Those come kind of close, but still, these are beating every iPhone before it. So if you want a better camera in your phone, these are the iPhones to pick up, even over the iPhone XR, which has one camera versus two on here. Now, speaking of that XR, I think that is going to give these phones a run for their money, as it's going to be basically the same phone, but has an LCD screen. But we know from the past that Apple has done really good when it comes to their LCD technology on their screens. You buy the iPhone XS or the XS Max, and it comes down to a couple of factors. A lot of people just dismiss it as it's just size. Get one that's bigger or smaller. No, they're not exactly the same. This one has a smaller battery. This one has a larger battery. You can see more content in Safari on the iPhone XS Max. It technically has more pixels, so it is a more, technologically advanced display. Yes, you can say same pixels per inch, but still, there's more pixels on the iPhone XS Max. So if you want the most superior iPhone you can get, it's the XS Max. Just be ready to handle that large size. If you want 99.5% of everything the iPhone XS Max offers, cheaper and a little bit more manageable, you can't go wrong with the XS. It's still going to be a fantastic piece of gear. And the last thing I want to mention is the thing that's really hurting these phones is the prices, really. I think that's the only thing that's going to hurt the sales of these devices. They could do much better if the prices were even a couple $100s less than they currently are, but that's not the way of the current market. I mean, the Galaxy Note 9's over $1,000. The P20 Pro, when it came out, was over $1,000. I'm sure the Mate 20 Pro is going to be over $1,000. The Pixel 3 XL is pushing $1,000 if you get the 128 gigabyte. Phones like the Honor 8X, the Honor 8X Max. But where these still shine is that ecosystem iOS, and just having, that stainless steel is just super premium. And that's about it. That's iPhone XS and XS Max. After 3 weeks. If you guys found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click that like button for me. If you have any questions about which one to get or even the 10R, let me know down below. I am bringing the 10R to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to be well, and peace.